Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you coming to this latest edition of the Brown Bag Boardroom. My name is Chris Gay. I'm the focal point coach in Austin. Only one here. May change at some point, but right now it's just me. I'd like to welcome everybody. We're going to talk about networking today. We're specifically going to talk about the challenges of networking, not only in a in-person setting, but also in a virtual setting as well. I know a lot of groups are going back to their in-person networking, but there's still a fair amount that's doing remote networking. So we're going to talk about it from both perspectives. So the first thing we need to talk about is who is my who? Who are you my ideal client? I'm going to start you guys off with a question, just a show of hands. Who has unlimited time and unlimited funds in which to network?
That's a joke, right?
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely a trick question. Absolutely a trick question. Thank you, Trisha. Yes, it is. So when it comes to networking, it's critical to be able to answer two questions. Who is my ideal client and who is my ideal referral partner? And the reason why we need to be able to answer those questions is because, look, let's be real. Not every event that you go to, whether it's virtual or whether it's live, is going to have your ideal client. But they may have your ideal referral partner. And in some cases, that may be even more important. Quick story, my ideal referral partner is an accountant. They see everything. A lot of times they know if a business owner is in trouble before the business owner does. So I identified my ideal referral partner. I met an ideal referral partner at a networking event, cultivated this person. This person teed me up four new clients in a month. And all I had to do was go in and close them. It was the easiest sale I made. They'd already talked to the client about me. The client was on board. The prospect was on board. It was so easy. So that ideal referral partner in some cases is even more important than your ideal client, identifying that person and identifying them in the meeting. The last thing is, if you can't tell me in 3 sentences or less who you are looking for, how am I supposed to know? My ideal referral partners are accountants, as I said, and commercial insurance agents for the same reason. So you need to be able to tell me who's your ideal client and who's your ideal referral partner. Money, 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 and time. This is really, really important. So my mantra for 2019 and into 2020 was I want to go where others aren't and do what others won't. And what I mean by that is if I go to a networking event and there are 8 other coaches in the room, I do as good a job as any coach I know in my market about telling you why I'm different. I will match my small business experience against any other coach in any room, anytime, anywhere. But if there are 7 other coaches standing behind me, what is the likelihood that I'm going to get you to sit still long enough to hear that presentation? So when you're looking for groups that your ideal client belong to, for B2B groups, that may include trade associations, BNI, and chambers of commerce. For B2C businesses, you may need to look at special interest groups such as book clubs, church groups, bike clubs, etc. I worked with an insurance agent for about a year, and she got a lot of traction out of her book club and out of her wine group. Actually, she didn't do very well in some of those other ones like BNI and the Chamber of Commerce because she was selling personal lines of insurance. So really look for those offbeat groups that you can go to. Trade associations are great for this. I will tell you, however, one little tip with the trade associations, they can be kind of tough to break into because you may be perceived as an outsider. Not a good thing, not a bad thing, but just a thing that you need to be aware of when you're going to a trade association group. Where do I find them? Right now in a virtual world, this is tough. Even those groups that are going back to in-person meetings, a lot of them are really low key. They're not advertising them a lot. There's some liability issues with an in-person event. So while they are having them, more people are migrating to them, they are keeping them low key. They don't want 100 people showing up at an in-person networking event. So the best way to find them, simply, first of all, asking your existing network. When you have a one-to-one with somebody, when you have a meeting someone, ask them, hey, where are you networking right now? Because everybody's looking for new and networking opportunities. You can find them online, LinkedIn, Facebook, Meetup, and Eventbrite. Websites of the companies I want to work with or my competitors' websites. I know that sounds like a little weird, but I love going to a website of a company that I want to work with. If they have an About Me page, About Me tab, that's gold. A lot of times it will tell you everything you need to know about what groups they belong to, what organizations, what events they find fun. And then it's just a matter of researching that group and finding out when they're having activities. Trade organization websites and publications. This is one is better for in-person than online. Right now, a lot of those are still shut down, although I am seeing them start to reopen a little bit at a time. But this one is a really good one for when in-person networking becomes more the norm than the exception. How do we define networking success? Guys, I will tell you a quick story. And this was funny to me. And I noticed this in my own BNI group, but I've seen it at other places as well, chambers of commerce and things like that. People come in, they sit down, they pay for whatever their lunch is. They have them, they hear whatever has to be heard by the speaker, or do their marketing moment or whatever it is, the format of that meeting, and then they leave, and you don't see them again. And when you ask them about their networking strategy, they're like, networking doesn't work. Interesting fact that I just came across in the last week or so, LinkedIn polled 15,000 of its members about the power of networking. 85% of those that responded said that networking was critical to their business success. 35% said that they felt like that their networking strategies were producing fruitful results. Why the discrepancy? Well, part of it is they don't know how to define networking success. So let's talk about it real quick. How do I know I'm winning? Networking is expensive both in lost time and money. We can all agree on that. It's very important to define what a win looks like for you. This is where I see a lot of people get it wrong. When I ask them what a win looks like for them in their networking strategy, they're like, it's getting a new client. That is really like going out, if to put it in a baseball analogy, it's like going out and expecting to hit a home run every time. You're setting yourself up for failure. Break that down into smaller, manageable bites. Track your wins and losses, constantly evaluate your strategy. And remember, guys, networking is a long-term strategy. It really is. When we studied networking tactics at Focal Point, and we studied everything from a warm referral. I know Trisha, Trisha knows Mark, meet Trisha, all the way down to cold calls. And what we found is that every strategy works. And you should have multiple strategies. Networking is a great long-term strategy, but it can take a very long time to do that. In my BNI group, I have an air conditioning guy. He is an ideal client for me. I had 3 Roto-Rooter franchises. I had plumbing trucks. He has AC trucks. This is a natural synergy. It took me 1 year to get him on board as a client. 50 BNI meetings. It's a long-term strategy. If that's the only strategy that you're using, then we need to talk. Networking is a valuable strategy, but it can take some time. So this is how I defined success. This was an actual goal of mine for 2019. It was to add 5 new clients. To get 5 new clients, I had to do 3 one-to-ones per week. So when it came to my networking goals, if each networking event I go to does not yield 1 one-to-one on average, I stopped going. I went to the Texas Association of Business Brokers, the local chapter here in Austin. I went for a year. This was when I was a brand new coach. I never got a single one-to-one out of it. Now with this strategy, if I go 3 months and I don't get at least one-to-one, I'm done, tapping out, I'm going somewhere else. My time is too valuable. My money's too valuable. My economic cost of being at that meeting versus another networking event is too valuable. So really hone in and define what networking success looks like for you. I like the one-to-ones. It's very easy to track. I can look at it at the end of the week on a simple Excel spreadsheet going, yep, I did that, or nope, I didn't. One note on this one, guys, if you use this one-to-one strategy and you set 3 one-to-ones per week like I did, if you don't make your 3 one-to-ones per week, cut yourself a little slack. If I don't get my 3 one-to-ones this week, let's say I only do 1, I'm not going to try and do 5 next week. I'm not going to try and do 7 the week before. I'm setting myself up for failure at that point. So when it comes to setting yourself a goal for something like this, if you don't meet that weekly goal, cut yourself a little slack. If you make it 3 weeks out of 4, great. But don't try and double down if you're not making your goal. If you're not making your goal on a consistent basis, then you need to look at your activity. My coach says something that I found very valuable, and I'll pass it on to you. He says, you can have activity without productivity, but you cannot have productivity without activity. Living and dying in 30 seconds. So the genesis of this presentation was I went to a chamber meeting. And 30 people in the chamber meeting. It was much like a B&I format. For those of you who have been in B&I, every person there gave a 45-second to 1-minute presentation on their business. And I walked out of that presentation, out of that meeting, I thought to myself, how many of those people would I have sat down with and had entered into a buying conversation with based upon their marketing moment? So I want you guys to all come off mute for a minute and tell me, of those 30 people that gave 30 presentations, how many of them do you think I would have sat down and talked to? Anybody?
3.
Yeah, I would have
2.
said 3.
Anybody else want to throw out a guess? No. The answer is 0. Yes, Trisha, it's 0. It is 0. And here's why. They spent the 45 seconds telling me about themselves and their business. At no point did they ever tell me how they were going to make my life better. And that's what we all want. We are all in one business and one business only. We're in the peace of mind business. We hire people to do things that we can't or won't do for ourselves. So that's why any of us are in business. So if that's the premise, then you should be telling me how you are going to make my life better. So I'm going to give you my elevator pitch, although I hate that term, which we call something else, but that's what we're calling it. This is one that I would use in a group that I have never, ever been to before. Or maybe I've only been to once. So here it goes. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Gay, and I own Focal Point of Austin. Who here, as a show of hands, wants to make more money? Good, I see some hands going up. Who here wants to work less hours doing it? Great. My clients, on average, see double-digit, in some cases triple-digit year-over-year growth, and on average, they work 200 hours per year less. If that sounds like something you might be interested in, see me after the meeting. Let's set up a one-to-one. My name is Chris Gay. I'm with Focal Point of Austin, and I can help you tame your tiger. That's my little tagline. Okay, so notice what I did there. Did I tell you anything about coaching? Did I even mention coaching? I didn't say Focal Point Coaching of Austin. I just said Focal Point of Austin. Guys, I've been giving that pitch now I rolled it out in January. So I've had some live, I've had some virtual. So almost 10 months now. I have yet to go to a networking event and had at least one person go, hey, I want to know how. And that's all I need. That gives me the opportunity to set up that one-to-one, sit down and talk to them about it, find out what their needs are, and we're off to the races at that point. So a great elevator pitch tells you, the potential buyer, how I am going to make your life better. That is really the purpose of the elevator pitch. And lastly, let's talk about networking in a virtual world. So I have doubled my business this year. Flat out doubled it. And I started by working my Champions Network. If you don't know what a Champions Network is, reach out to your local Focal Point coach. They'll be happy to schedule a one-to-one with you and talk to you about a Champions Network and what it can do for you. The second thing is this right here is your best friend right now. Think about it. People are being Zoom called to death. They're being emailed to death. But what has actually happened in their world? Their sphere of influence, the people they interact with on a day in, day out basis, has shrunk considerably. Some of us went from interacting with 20, 30, 40, 50 people a day to maybe 5. They are craving that human interaction. How I doubled my business is I looked at my champions network and I went to making 30 phone calls a day. I get people now who would never, ever, ever have talked to me pre-COVID over the phone. So the phone is your friend. Reach out, talk to those people, find out what's going on with them. Ask them how their life is going. Ask them how their business is going. If they've got kids in virtual school, like me, you may have heard mine come in and out. I'll try to keep them out. Ask them how that's going. It's tough, but they're craving human interaction. When you're on a Zoom call, pay attention to who you want to connect with. This has been the biggest struggle for people on Zoom. Old networking event, you go, you mix, you mingle, you talk, find somebody interesting, you pull out your phone, you set up one-to-one, boom, great. No open networking on a Zoom call. There isn't. So when you're on that Zoom call, this is where ideal client and ideal referral partner becomes so critical, especially on a Zoom call. Identify those people that you want to connect with. And lastly, follow up and follow through. Once that meeting is over, reach out. Don't wait. Really great focal point coach told me one time, she said, today or tomorrow, today or tomorrow. So when it comes, always today or tomorrow. So when it comes to, as soon as that meeting's over, block yourself an extra 15 or 20 minutes, send those emails, ask for the one-to-ones, and ask for them right away. So one final tip about asking for a one-to-one via email. Guys, if you say, let's have a one-to-one sometime, you're not gonna get anywhere. When you send that email, have a specific day and time in mind. So if I was gonna set up a one-to-one with, say, Mark Steele, I would say, hey, Mark, great to see you on the Zoom call today. Would love to buy you a cup of coffee. How does Tuesday at 8:30 or Wednesday at 3:30 work for you? Since I started doing that one little tip, the positive responses I've gotten to my one-to-ones have increased 75%. So follow up and follow through. Thank you so much for being here today. I'll take any questions that anybody has. If you guys want to come off mute.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, that was awesome. Thank you for taking us through that. And by the way, I took an entire page of notes. An entire page of notes. So I would like to go back to something you said very early on, which is go where others aren't, do what others won't. I think that is a fantastic point and a great way to find people that you normally wouldn't. Right. So can we circle back around on your advice around that, like attending public meetings for a particular industry or something like that?
Yes. So what I mean by that is when I look at whether I'm going to attend a networking event or not, I really make my decision based upon 3 things. The first one I look at is, do I have a reasonable expectation that I'm going to be the only coach in the room? Okay, so when I go to the Texas Association of Air Conditioning Contractors, I know I'm gonna be the only coach there. There's a Texas Association of the Remodeling Industry. I've been to a couple of their events, only coach there. Believe it or not, in my chamber on a regular basis, I'm the only coach there. That's why I chose it. So I look forward to see if I have a reasonable expectation if I'm going to be the only coach there. The second thing I look at is if there's a speaker, do I find the speaker's topic relevant? Do I think it's going to make me better at my business? Because look, you're going to go to networking events that are busts. You just are. You do this long enough, you go to enough events, some of them are going to be a bust. But if the speaker's relevant, if the speaker's interesting, then it's worthwhile. I haven't wasted my time completely. And the last thing I look at is time. What time is it? I haven't found, at least for me, that networking events that start after 6 o'clock are particularly useful. Generally, if business owners don't attend those events, they send people to those events, and it just becomes a drinking fest. And I've got 2 kids. That's not a good use of my time. If it's working for you, great, but be cognizant of what your strategies are and what you want out of them. I don't know about in other cities, but in the Austin Business Journal, they have a list. It's called a book of lists, and they have networking entities in it. They have networking groups in it. I get a lot from my Champions Network. We have an email. Hey, you want to go to this? You want to go that? You want to go to this? You want to go that? And I don't go to them all. I identify the ones where I think meet my strategy, and I go to those. So when you're looking for networking events, cast a very wide net. Look, we all know BNI. We all know Chambers of Commerce. Those are the easy targets. If you want to really get a lot out of your networking strategy, cast your net wider. That answer your question?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Chris, if I could just say, fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. I'm going to use that, your value proposition. Raise your hands if you want more money. I'm certainly going to use that. Well, one thing you said with today or tomorrow, that resonated as well. And it just got me thinking of my prior CEO. He was a Marine Corps officer, and he really is a genius. And so what he would always say, rather than today or tomorrow, he'd say, why are you looking at your calendar? I'm looking at my watch.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely, Mark. And that's an excellent point. And thank you for the kind words about the elevator pitch. One thing I do want to tell you guys is that when you're giving your elevator pitch, cadence is important. So notice when I gave my elevator pitch, there were 2 hard pauses in there. Why? If you think about it, you go to a BNI, let's say there's 30 people in the BNI. By the time everybody gets up and does their elevator pitch, you've heard an hour of elevator pitches. Can you possibly remember number 5 if you're on number 29? But what happens when you break that up and give that hard stop, it allows the human brain to catch up. It went from noise to no noise. Wait a minute, no noise. I was just asked something, what happened? Okay, so then the brain rewinds and like, wait a minute, more money. Oh yeah, that's me. Because I watched you guys. It took you guys about 10 seconds for hands to start going up because your brain went, wait a minute. Answer, yeah, I want that. The next time I asked the question and pause, everybody's hands went up immediately. So be very aware of that cadence and put those hard stops in and let people's brain catch up, because then they're listening to you.
Great tips.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? I got time for one more if anybody has any. Nope, I don't see anybody.
Yeah, well, so no one else wants to talk, so I'll talk, Chris. Imagine
Absolutely.
that. You said something really important that resonated with me personally, which is, and I'm going to use my own words and not yours, but we have to have acceptance that we won't always meet our goals, right? So let's say I have a goal of going to 3 networking events or 3 one-to-ones, whatever that looks like for me, and I don't make it. I have to accept that it's okay, and I don't need to make it up the next week, right? So I think maybe talking through that behavior is important too.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm going to tell you, I always like to use myself as an example, and I have no problems laying out my successes and my failures. Okay, so the question becomes, did I meet my goal for 2019? And I did, but it was close. I onboarded a client in between Christmas and New Year's, which anybody in the coaching world will tell you that almost never happens. And not only that, I actually stole her from another coach. Great story, but we don't have time for it here. But let's say that she doesn't onboard in 2019 and I only get 4. Is that a failure? Did I fail? I don't think so. I started off meeting 5 clients. I got 4. I didn't quite reach my goal, but it was 4 more than I had at the beginning of the year. Cut yourself some slack. One of the things I do with my clients, first thing we talk about when we have a coaching session is wins. What went right for you since the last time I saw you? Because this is what we do as business owners. We concentrate on the negative, on the things we're doing wrong, more than on the things we do right. If I didn't get to my 5, okay. There were some things that came up. My uncle had terminal cancer. I was on the road going back and forth between here in Kansas, 13 hours one way for 6 weeks, every weekend. That kind of puts a crimp on being able to network later in the week. Those things are going to happen. Cut yourself some slack. It's okay. If you get 4 instead of, that's why I like to, sometimes when I do with my clients, I'll set up an acceptable goal, a realistic goal, and a stretch goal. That way, if we only get to the acceptable goal, guess what? It's still a win. We wanted this, we didn't quite get there, but we're still doing good work. We still made progress. My dad used to say, success is a journey, not a destination.
I like what you said there, Chris, and really, we tend to focus on the negative. I've heard the statistic, we say 8 negative things to 1 positive. If you think about Absolutely. Our family, our colleagues, think about how you talk to your kids. Don't do that. No, you can't do that. No, no, no. 8 times to, okay, good job, Mary. Good job, Sally.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions? Wow. Well, thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed presenting for you. It's been fabulous. This really is one of my favorite parts of the job, is getting to come and talk to people and presenting. It's so much fun for me, and it's great when I get to share it with an awesome audience. So thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, so what we're talking about is we're talking about LinkedIn mining, and LinkedIn mining could be a very valuable tool. So I'm actually going to share my LinkedIn screen with you guys so you can kind of see what we're talking about here. So this is my LinkedIn page. I'm going to go over and I'm going to click on my name to bring up my individual homepage. And right here where it says I have 500 connections, everybody see that? Mm-hmm. Kind of just nod your head if you see it. Yes. Okay, people nodding their heads. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. These are all the people that I know on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn ranks these contacts with the numerical context. The first ones I know are anybody that I'm directly connected with is a first-tier contact. Anybody that I'm connected with that knows somebody else is a second-tier contact. So we're going to pick somebody. I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to pick, let's use Mr. Lonsdale here. Okay. See, now this one isn't going to work. And the reason why this one isn't going to work is because notice how this is grayed out. Tom's got me, for whatever reason, I can't look at his LinkedIn contacts. So we're going to pick somebody else, and that's going to happen. Let's pick, good. Tiffany McGee. Notice her contact section, like mine, is blue. That means I can access it. So when I click on Tiffany's contacts, the first thing that comes up are generally first-tier contacts. What I want to do is I want to screen those out because I already know those people. Those are not people I'm specifically looking for, probably. So I'm going to screen those. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to uncheck the first-tier contacts and hit apply. Now I've got everybody that Tiffany is connected with that I am not. So you can also filter this a little bit more. I will come in here and I'm going to filter it by region, by the Austin, Texas metropolitan area. I can filter it by company. I can filter it by industry. I can filter it however I want. The one thing I wish it did, but it doesn't, is it doesn't filter by job title. So if you're looking for a specific category like a CEO or a human resources manager, you won't necessarily get that. And so then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click apply. And this is everybody that Tiffany knows that I don't. So the first one is, oh, let's look, Colin Wallace. Wow, Austin Park and Recreation, Austin Parks Foundation. I need to know him. So what I'll do is I'll reach out to Tiffany and say, hey, Tiffany, I see that you know Colin Wallace. I'd like to know Colin Wallace. Would you feel comfortable setting up an email introduction for me? And I'm going to get a couple answers. The first answer I may get is, I know Colin, I really don't know him that well. I probably wouldn't be the best person to introduce. But look, if you look at it, Colin and I have 12 other shared connections. So if Tiffany won't do it, there's somebody in that 12 shared connections that will. The second answer you're going to get is absolutely be more than happy to set up an email introduction between you and Colin. I think it would be great. Let me talk to Colin, see if he's agreeable, and I'll set you guys up. This can be a very valuable way to expand your champions network and get in with people that you may not get into. The one thing I will tell you, the one downside about doing this way is that if I go and click on Colin's profile, I can only do that so many times in a given month. I think it's 15 before LinkedIn wants to charge me their premium membership, which I think is about $50 a month. So it's not a lot of money, but I really don't like to pay that if I don't have to. So I use this list to build my champions network. I go in and I pull out my 15 every month and just keep a revolving list of who I want to talk to. It'd be a really good way to build that list and identify those ideal clients that you may not necessarily have access to. I had a client, prospect that reached out to me about an introduction to somebody that I knew at the San Antonio Zoo. So not only was I happy to arrange that introduction between them, I've got a speaking opportunity out of it from the prospect, and she and I are meeting next week, and I'm going to give her a proposal. So it's good both ways. If somebody reaches out to you to do this and you have the wherewithal, absolutely do it. It will pay unseen dividends, and also use it for yourself. So that's a little bit about LinkedIn mining, and I found it to be a very valuable tool. Any questions about LinkedIn mining?
I think that's super cool, Chris. I could see everyone got distracted because they're all in their LinkedIn profiles right now.
Yeah, if you're looking for a current company, those of you who have taken the executive coaching certification and you're looking for a current company, a larger company, make sure and plug that in. They don't have everything, but they have a lot.
Yeah, that was awesome, Chris. So on behalf of the Texas Leadership Network, the Brown Bag Boardroom team, we're so glad that you guys joined. If you have questions or want to do some follow-ups, I will absolutely post our contact information in the chat below the window where you're watching the video. And we hope that you guys have a great day. Look for us next month when we bring you the next Brown Bag Boardroom. Thank you.